jury now seated. Opening statements in the George Zimmerman murder trial will get underway on Monday. Some people are really surprised by the makeup of that seated jury. 5 white women and a black or Hispanic woman. Interesting, since race is a big factor in a trial that's much more than a case of self-defense or murder. Thousands of people hit the streets to protest when Sanford, Florida police did not initially charge George Zimmerman with any crime. Protesters argued that was because Trayvon Martin was black and wearing a hoodie. The case quickly caused a racial and political divide, with big-name conservatives like Sean Hannity defending Zimmerman and liberals, even President Obama, voicing support for Trayvon Martin. So let's talk about those larger implications surrounding this trial with HLN contributor Jason Johnson. He's in Sanford, Florida. He's a professor of political science at Hiram College and chief political correspondent for Politic365.com. And Reverend Eugene Rivers, pastor of Boston's Azusa Christian Community. Welcome to you both.
Good morning, Carol.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for being here. Jason, I want to start with you. A lot of racial tension there in Sanford, starting with a fight over seating arrangements in the courthouse. A white Baptist minister, and he's a pretty big minister. He has 30,000 followers. He wanted to sit behind the Martin family, and the defense complained. Why?
Well, because the defense doesn't want someone with that strong a connection to the white community in Sanford to be sitting behind the black family. Look, a lot of this case is about symbols. Symbolically, what does a hoodie mean? Symbolically, what does it mean to have a white pastor with 30,000 parishioners sitting behind a black family that's suffering through the loss of their son? So each side is trying to work on the optics and the symbolism, and the defense made the first move.
So will that white pastor be sitting behind the Martin family, or was he forced to move?
Yeah, so what the judge did is they sort of split up the seats. So now you're going to have 2 seats for pastors behind the Martin family, 2 seats for pastors behind the Zimmerman family, and they're going to be able to rotate. So it's just sort of odd musical chairs. It's strange.
Reverend, what do you think of that?
It's part of the absurdity of the theatrical quality that this entire tragedy is taken on. This now is a media event. It's a happening. You have marches, and ironically, in the middle of all of this theater, black males are killing black males. 93% of the shootings of black males are committed by other black males. Black people are 12% of the population. And 49% of the homicide victims. It's crazy.
I know where you're going, Reverend, because you've written about that this case has everything to do with race, and you question, like, would we care if George Zimmerman was a black man who killed a black teenager?
We would not. In fact, we wouldn't know who Trayvon Martin was. We wouldn't know who Edward Zimmerman was because if we ask the very basic question, how many black males have been killed in Florida since this incident? I venture to say that most of us, in fact, 95% of us, could not name one black individual that's been killed since the racial card or the racial dimension of this thing wasn't in play.
Okay, well, we have to talk about the racial dimension because it's certainly there, right, Jason? Because I know you talked to people who were happy that a nearly all-white jury was seated. Why is that?
Oh, definitely. I spoke to members of the Goldsboro community, which was the original black community that was absorbed by Sanford almost 100 years ago. And look, there's real fear down here in the black community of backlash from the white majority. They're afraid of white people walking down the streets and playing vigilante. So there's a feeling here that if Zimmerman is found guilty by a mostly white jury, at least black people won't end up suffering the consequences. And I've got to disagree with the Reverend. I do think there's a class element as well, having to do with Section 8 housing in these communities. I think we probably would have heard about this case anyway, even if the larger point is the death of young black men doesn't usually get national attention.
Yeah, because this case is also about the gun culture, isn't it, Reverend?
Yeah, well, listen, we're talking about alligator wrestling, trailer park folk that love guns. It's the South. So that's not quite news. It's Southern, trailer park gun culture. And that's been part of the South since the first Scotch-Irish landed there.
Jason?
That's not entirely it. Look, I walk this neighborhood. This is one of the nicer areas in Sanford, and what you've really got going on here is that community was affected by the housing boom, and now you have people from Section 8 housing living there, and therefore residents, homeowners who happen to live in that Lake Park community started to profile people who they thought were from Section 8 housing. So there's a big class element to this. It's not just all about a bunch of country bumpkins who love their guns and thump the Bible.
All right, well, opening statements set to get underway on Monday. They should be interesting. I got to stop it here. Thank you so much, Jason Johnson and the Reverend Eugene Rivers. A group of mayors want to ban the